You are in your kitchen, your bull terrier is asleep on the rug, just, minding your own business. But then you reach over to the counter, and the exact second, the lid on a plastic container of cheese pops open.
Total transformation.
Right. I mean, a total transformation. Those little triangular eyes lock onto you like radar. Her whole body goes completely rigid. The ears snap forward.
It's like they suddenly go on high alert.
Exactly. And this is the exact same dog who maybe 5 minutes ago out in the yard acted completely deaf to the word sit.
Completely deaf.
But now she is offering a flawless sit, a perfectly executed down, and a double spin. Completely unprompted, all in under 10 seconds, just for the chance at a tiny piece of cheddar.
It is genuinely amazing how fast that selective hearing just poof disappears when high-value dairy is on the line. I mean, their motivation suddenly just goes through the roof.
It really does. Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are so glad to have you with us as we tear into this incredibly comprehensive care guide on canine nutrition.
And we should clarify, we aren't just talking about generic dog food today, right?
Right. No, we are specifically tailoring this to one of the most physically impressive, densely muscled, and highly food-motivated breeds out there, the Bull Terrier.
Such a unique breed.
They really are.
Wow.
So our mission today is to decode how to properly fuel this machine of a dog across its entire life. Because the ultimate goal, and honestly, the ultimate challenge, is to avoid quietly padding that incredible athletic physique with a hidden layer of body fat.
And that hidden layer is, well, it's the core trap we have to navigate here.
How so?
Because bull terriers are built like tanks right from the factory. They have that broad, sweeping chest, that incredibly powerful neck, a really dense frame. So they mask extra weight exceptionally well.
They truly do. You look at them and you just see power.
Exactly. And that becomes a massive blind spot for owners. Because if a bull terrier looks a little more solid, maybe a little rounder this year than she did last year, people just assume...
No, she's a bull terrier. That's just what the breed looks like.
Yeah. They're supposed to be thick. The natural, stoic structure of the dog completely masks the biological reality of what is actually happening underneath the skin.
Okay, let's unpack this. I really want to dive into this idea of the tank build. Because if I am looking at a naturally powerful, imposing breed, my immediate instinct, especially, for a new owner, is to want to support that frame.
Right. You want to build a big, powerful-looking dog.
Right, as fast as possible.
Ooh.
But the source material is waving a giant red flag here. Rushing a puppy's growth is incredibly dangerous.
It really is.
If we compare building a puppy's body to construction, it's kind of like trying to build a heavy brick house on a freshly poured, wet concrete foundation.
Ooh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, so the bricks are the muscle and fat and that wet concrete. Those are the dog's uncalcified growth plates. If you pile heavy bricks on top of growth plates that haven't fully hardened and cured yet, you literally warp the dog's skeletal frame under the pressure.
That is the perfect way to visualize the biomechanics of it. What is fascinating here is that steady, slow, highly controlled growth beats rapid growth every single time.
Every time.
Every single time. A complete life stage appropriate puppy diet is formulated to support everything they need simultaneously. So bone development, muscle growth, immune function, skin health, brain development, it's all in there.
So you don't need to add anything extra.
You absolutely do not need to push extra calories on top of that just to get a bigger dog sooner.
But wait, let me push back on that for a second.
Right.
Let's say I give a growing puppy a high-protein supplement, or I just feed them way above the recommended amount. Doesn't the body just use that extra fuel to grow more muscle?
It's a very common assumption.
Because people see a muscular breed and think, they need to feed them like a human bodybuilder. More protein equals more muscle, right?
Biologically, the answer is a hard no. That is just not how canine metabolism works. In fact, the care guide includes a strict warning against adding calcium, protein powders, or bodybuilding-style supplements to a complete diet unless a vet specifically directs you to.
Wait, really? So what actually happens to that extra protein if it isn't building muscle?
Well, when a dog consumes more protein than its body immediately needs for tissue repair and growth, it cannot store those extra amino acids for later.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't just sit around waiting to become a bicep. Instead, the liver has to step in and convert those excess amino acids into glucose for energy, and eventually into fat.
Wow, so you aren't building a more muscular dog at all.
No, you're actually forcing the kidneys to work overtime to excrete the nitrogen waste from that process. And you are just packing fat onto a skeleton that isn't ready to carry it.
That makes total sense now with a concrete foundation analogy.
Exactly. Muscle comes from genetics, steady growth, and appropriate physical activity. You can't just crank up the protein macro and expect a bodybuilder dog.
Okay, so if we aren't supposed to turbocharge their food, and we want this nice, slow, controlled growth, how do we know how much to actually feed them? I mean, most of us just flip the kibble bag over, look at the weight chart, scoop it out, and call it a day.
And that is exactly where things go off the rails.
Really?
Yeah, the feeding charts on the back of the bag are just a baseline starting point. They are not gospel. They don't know your dog's specific metabolism.
Right. Every dog is different.
Exactly. What actually matters is watching the individual animal in front of you. You take the bag's recommendation, sure, but then you adjust based on their specific growth rate and energy burn.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. If we can't blindly trust the chart on the bag, and we know this breed's tank structure hides fat incredibly well, how do we actually figure out if they're at a healthy weight?
We have to completely change our diagnostic tools. The guide is incredibly clear on this. You must use your hands, not your eyes.
Which feels super counterintuitive because, we take photos of our dogs all the time. But the sources are adamant that photos lie.
They absolutely do.
And I want to explain why they lie, because this was a huge aha moment for me. So because of a Bull Terrier's unique barrel chest and very short coat, any overhead lighting in your house, or even out in the sun, casts a shadow straight down their sides.
Right, it plays a trick on the eye.
Exactly. In a two-dimensional photo, that shadow looks exactly like a tuck, lean waist. You look at your phone and think, wow, she looks incredibly fit.
But if you actually put your hands on her...
Yeah, you realize you're feeling an inch of fat over the ribs.
Hands tell you the biological truth that lighting and camera angles obscure. In a healthy adult, when you run your hands along their side, you should be able to feel the ribs fairly easily.
What should that actually feel like then?
It should feel somewhat like the back of your hand. You can feel the structure of the bones right there under the skin without having to press down hard and search for them. And looking down from above, there should be a distinct waist curving inward.
Right, the body as a whole should look cylindrical. As the sources note, they shouldn't look like a barrel with legs.
No, definitely not.
The powerful neck and chest are skeletal and muscular structure. They are not an excuse for being round. And you absolutely cannot compare your dog's weight on a scale to another Bull Terrier down the street. Right?
Never. A 45-pound female might be overweight, while a 65-pound male might be perfectly lean. Weight only means something in the context of your dog's specific frame over time.
Okay, but I have to offer a very specific pushback here. On behalf of anyone listening who is currently dealing with a highly intense, deeply guilt-inducing stare in their kitchen.
I know that stare well.
Right. Let's say you measure the food, you check the WIBs, and everything seems totally fine on paper. But what if the dog is constantly acting hungry? She is staring at me, she is drooling, she is following me around the kitchen.
And a classic guilt trip.
Doesn't a begging dog fundamentally mean they are in a caloric deficit and genuinely need more food?
It is so easy to fall for that, because as humans, we associate begging with genuine hunger. But the answer is a resounding no.
Really?
A Bull Terrier acting hungry is absolutely not reliable evidence that she requires more calories. What we have to understand is the psychology of the modern dog. Begging is largely a learned, dopamine-driven behavior.
So it's like an evolutionary trick.
Essentially, yes. Canines are opportunistic scavengers by nature. Their brains are hardwired to seek out food whenever it is available, regardless of whether their stomach is full.
That makes a lot of sense.
But beyond biology, begging is a routine that gets reinforced. If she stares at you and you drop a piece of crust, her brain gets a massive hit of dopamine. You just taught her that staring operates a slot machine that dispenses carbs.
Oh, wow. A slot machine. That's so true.
Your dog can be fully fed, nutritionally perfect, completely satisfied, and still be highly motivated to manipulate you for more.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because that begging isn't happening in a vacuum. It usually targets multiple different members of the same household.
Oh, absolutely. They play the field.
Which brings us to what the sources identify as the biggest hidden calorie trap of all the uncoordinated family feeding system. Think of an uncoordinated household, like a family sharing a single checking account where every single person has their own debit card, but absolutely nobody is looking at the ledger.
That is exactly the dynamic.
Right. Like if dad buys a coffee, and the teenager buys a video game, and mom buys groceries, and no one checks the balance, eventually you're going to overdraw the account. That is exactly what happens with dog treats.
Consider the math of the typical scenario outlined in the guide. One partner wakes up early and feeds the dog breakfast.
Okay.
A few hours later, the kids wake up, assume the dog hasn't eaten because she's acting like she's starving, and they feed her a second breakfast.
The classic double breakfast.
Then at lunch, someone slips her pieces of a sandwich. In the afternoon, someone gives her a large dental chew to keep her quiet during a Zoom call.
And we need to pause right there because people forget that dental chews and puzzle toys are completely packed with calories.
Oh, heavily packed.
They don't register as food in our minds. They just feel like activities or, moments of bonding. But biologically, they count.
They absolutely count. And training treats usually don't get factored into the daily ledger either. Now, we aren't saying you shouldn't use food. For training, food is genuinely one of the most essential tools you have.
Right, for teaching recall, leash manners, making vet visits cooperative.
Exactly. But whatever you hand them as a reward is still part of her daily total caloric intake. It is not a bonus round on top of it.
So what is the fix? How do we balance the ledger? The guide offers a brilliant, simple hack here. Pull a portion of her actual measured daily kibble aside in the morning and use that for routine training throughout the day.
It's such a simple but effective strategy.
And when you do use high-value treats like cheese or chicken, keep the pieces microscopic.
This is a crucial point about canine olfaction. A dog's enthusiasm does not scale with the volume of the treat.
Because their sense of smell is so incredibly powerful.
Yes. Their brain registers a pea-sized crumb of cheese with the exact same level of reward and satisfaction as an entire slice. You can reinforce the behavior perfectly without blowing out their daily calories.
And as the dog masters the basics, you transition to non-food rewards, right?
Correct.
You use a tug toy, you offer genuine physical praise, or you use environmental rewards like asking for a sit before releasing them to go sniff a really interesting fire hydrant.
Exactly. You fade the food out.
You only save the caloric high-value stuff for navigating extreme distractions. But to fix the overdrawn bank account problem, the humans really have to get organized. The system the sources recommend is incredibly practical. Have one shared daily treat jar on the counter.
I love this system. You calculate the total treat allowance for the day, and you put it in that specific jar.
And that's it.
That's it. Anyone in the family who wants to give the dog a treat has to pull from that jar. And when the jar is empty, it is empty. No exceptions, no matter how hard she stares at you.
You also designate one specific person to handle meal prep to avoid that double breakfast scenario. And you schedule those meals.
Scheduling is key.
Because leaving a bowl full of food out all day for free feeding makes it mathematically impossible to notice if her appetite drops, which is a key indicator of illness. Measured, scheduled meals make tracking her baseline intake effortless.
So once the household is finally on the same page with how much we are feeding, we have to talk about what is actually going into the dog. We have to navigate the danger zones of canine nutrition.
And the most common minefield here is human table food. Like, an occasional piece of plain boiled chicken isn't going to end the world.
No, not at all.
But chronic table scraps add massive amounts of untracked salt and fat that a dog's pancreas simply isn't designed to process. More importantly, though, the guide provides a strict list of genuinely toxic human foods. And we need to talk about why these are toxic, not just that they are bad.
Let's start with xylitol, which is an artificial sweetener found in sugar-free gum, peanut butter, and baked goods.
Stuff people have in their pantry right now.
Exactly. In humans, it's harmless. But in dogs, xylitol triggers a massive rapid release of insulin. That insulin spike causes their blood sugar to crash so hard and so fast that it can lead to seizures, liver failure, and death within hours.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
Then you have onions and garlic. And it's not just that they upset the stomach, right?
Right.
They contain compounds that cause profound oxidative damage to a dog's red blood cells, literally causing those cells to rupture and leaving the dog severely anemic.
And the list goes on. Grapes and raisins can cause acute kidney failure. Macadamia nuts affect the nervous system. Chocolate contains theobromine, which speeds up their heart rate to dangerous levels.
And we have to consider the specific breed we were talking about today. A Bull Terrier is not a delicate, cautious eater.
Oh, definitely not.
If they smell chocolate inside a plastic Tupperware container, they have the jaw strength and the sheer stubbornness to simply crush the plastic and swallow the entire thing, container and all, which turns a toxicity emergency into a surgical obstruction emergency.
The guide is incredibly firm on the protocol here. If you suspect your dog has ingested something toxic, do not try to Google a home remedy. You call your vet or an animal poison control hotline immediately.
And absolutely do not try to induce vomiting yourself at home.
No, never. Because depending on what they swallowed, bringing it back up the esophagus can cause even more chemical or physical damage.
Speaking of physical damage, we have to mention cooked bones. People think giving a dog a leftover steak bone is, natural.
It's a huge misconception.
But the cooking process removes all the moisture and collagen from the bone. It turns a naturally flexible raw bone into a brittle, glass-like substance. When a powerful dog crushes a cooked bone, it splinters into sharp shards that can perforate the stomach or intestines.
It's truly life-threatening. But let's shift from emergencies to the everyday panics. Digestion.
Oh, owners obsess over their dog's stool.
Which they should. But here's a scenario for you. What does it mean when a dog has a perfectly normal diet but suddenly produces one slightly off, loose stool?
So what does this all mean when a dog just gets a minor upset stomach? Isn't the natural human instinct to immediately march down to the boutique pet store, declare that the dog has a chicken allergy, and swap their food for a totally different brand to try and fix it?
It is a very common instinct, but biologically, it is exactly the wrong move.
Really? Why?
A dog's gut microbiome is a complex ecosystem. One slightly off stool does not mean the food has fundamentally failed. It could just mean they licked something weird in the yard.
Which happens all the time.
Right. What matters is the pattern. If you constantly bounce between 5 different boutique foods every time they have a minor hiccup, you throw that microbiome into chaos. You muddy the waters, making it impossible to figure out what is actually going on.
Right. So when do we actually worry?
You worry when the symptoms are persistent, severe, bloody, or clearly causing the animal pain. That requires a veterinary workup, not a panic decision in the food aisle.
The same exact logic applies to skin issues, which the guide notes are a huge deal for Bull Terriers. They are prone to skin flare-ups.
Very prone.
But persistent itching, red hot spots, or obsessive paw licking require a proper vet look because food is only one possible trigger. They could be dealing with environmental allergies like pollen or mites or a staph infection.
Exactly. Randomly deciding to cut grain out of her diet at home isn't a medical diagnosis. It is just a blind guess. If your vet actually suspects a food allergy, they won't tell you to just switch brands. They will prescribe a highly controlled elimination trial.
And we should explain what that actually entails because it is intense.
It's very strict.
A proper elimination trial means feeding the dog a single, novel protein, something they've never eaten in their entire life, like kangaroo or hydrolyzed soy, for 8 straight weeks.
Yeah.
And during those 8 weeks, they can have absolutely 0 other treats. No cheese, no dropped crusts, no flavored medications. That is the only way to prove a food allergy. It looks nothing like just swapping bags at the store.
That perfectly transitions into the danger of fad diets. Grain-free, for example. The sources clearly state that grain is not a universal villain.
That's a big one.
Unless a dog has a diagnosed grain allergy, which is actually quite rare, grain-free is not automatically healthier. And some grain-free formulations have even been investigated for links to heart issues. What really matters is whether the complete diet is nutritionally balanced.
And then there is the raw food movement. People are drawn to it because they hear claims about shinier coats, more muscle, or fixing allergies. But the care guide highlights very real, documented risks.
The biggest risk with homemade or raw diets isn't just the obvious pathogen risk of raw meat, it is long-term nutritional imbalance.
Like getting the ratios wrong.
Exactly. It is incredibly difficult to get the exact required ratios of calcium to phosphorus just by throwing meat, bone, and vegetables into a bowl. Even with the best intentions, if that ratio is off over a period of years, it can severely degrade bone density and organ function.
So it's not a DIY project?
No.
Well,
If you are going to feed raw or homemade, it must be formulated by a board-certified veterinary nutritionist, not based on a recipe you found on a forum.
and what about all the supplements? The joint powders, the omega oils, the daily probiotics.
None of that is automatically safe or necessary just because a label has a picture of a dog on it. A high-quality, complete diet covers a massive amount of ground already.
Makes sense.
Supplements can actually interact negatively with prescription medications or complicate existing health issues. You should always loop your vet in before adding powders to their bowl.
Which brings up a sobering reality check from the guide regarding senior dogs and inherited conditions. Bull Terriers can be prone to inherited heart and kidney diseases, And no diet, no matter how expensive, can promise to prevent a genetic condition.
That's right. If your dog is diagnosed with a specific heart or kidney issue, that calls for a highly individualized prescription nutritional plan managed by your vet. You can't
Oh.
just buy a bag of food because it has the word heart printed on it in nice font.
And as they age, their basic caloric engine is going to shift. Once growth finishes, once they are spayed or neutered, and as their joints age and their activity levels drop, their metabolism slows down.
It happens to all of us.
Right. You cannot just keep feeding a 7-year-old dog the same portions you fed them when they were 2.
And conversely, if an older dog starts losing weight or muscle mass unexpectedly, the answer is not just put more food in the bowl.
Right, because that muscle wasting could be sarcopenia, or their organs becoming less efficient at absorbing nutrients, or even hidden dental pain, making it hard to chew. Unexplained senior weight loss requires blood work and a vet exam.
And since you mentioned chewing, remember that dry food alone is not a complete dental plan. The friction of kibble does not magically clean teeth perfectly. Toothbrushing and regular vet checks still matter immensely.
So we have covered the fuel, we've covered how to measure it, how to manage the household, and what to avoid. But all that caloric fuel and all that dense muscle we are trying to maintain absolutely requires an outlet.
It certainly does.
How much you feed her and when you feed her relates directly to her physical activity.
Which is the perfect bridge to our next topic, because you really cannot plan a safe, effective exercise routine for a bull terrier without fundamentally understanding the weight, muscle load, and body conditioning principles we just broke down today.
Exactly. Which is why our next deep dive is going to tackle bull terrier exercise and weight. We will explore how all this energy actually gets burned off safely without destroying their joints.
It is going to be a crucial follow-up to synthesize everything we've unpacked.
To sum up today's mission for you, stop relying on the bag charts and start using your hands to check for ribs. Stop free-feeding and schedule those measured meals.
Yes, please schedule them.
And most importantly, fix the uncoordinated household economy. Build that shared daily treat jar system so everyone is operating from the exact same caloric ledger. A powerful chest is a beautiful trait of the breed. A barrel with legs means it is time to adjust the daily allowance.
By centralizing everything, she still gets plenty of food, she still gets the joy of training rewards, and she still gets the bonding of mealtime. It is just all mathematically visible now instead of being hidden across a dozen small, untracked decisions.
Before we sign off, a quick piece of housekeeping. You can keep your dog's health records, dietary history, and important vet information completely organized with the Vital Pet app. We've dropped the download link for you right in the description of this deep dive.
It's a great tool.
It really is. And our mandatory reminder, this deep dive is for educational purposes only. If you are ever concerned about your dog's health or diet, your ultimate resource is always a conversation with your veterinarian.
Always consult your vet.
Finally, we want to leave you with something to mull over. We talked about how begging is largely a learned behavior built entirely on a history of dopamine and reinforcement. So the next time you're standing in your kitchen and your dog snaps into that flawless, unprompted sit the exact second they hear a plastic wrapper open.
Take a long moment to consider the dynamic in the room.
Exactly. Are you rewarding your dog for doing a trick? Or has your brilliant, opportunistic bull terrier successfully trained you to drop cheese on command? Think about it. We'll see you next time.